With Sonic Cross Shadow Generations coming out, it got me thinking, what zones would be playable in the game? A part of the appeal of the original Generations was seeing new takes on old zones. Obviously, these levels are going to be shadow focused, so maybe we'll see some more SA2 and Shadow the Hedgehog levels. But then I got to thinking even more and I thought, what zones would be in the game if there was a Sonic Generations 2? The way this is going to work is, since there were 9 zones in the original Sonic Generations, I'm going to pick 9 new zones, and each new zone is going to be from the same game as the original selection. But there's a twist. To make things even more difficult, I can't pick any old zone that was featured in the 3DS version of Generations, Sonic Mania, the original Generations, or Sonic Cross Shadow Generations. All of the stages from Sonic Cross Shadow Generations haven't been revealed yet, so I'll be going off of what we currently know, those being Space Colony Arc, Rail Canyon, and Kingdom Valley. I like variety, so I'm not gonna pick something that was already in one of those remix/anniversary games. But there's another twist. In order to keep things interesting, I'm going to try my best to use level themes that weren't as well represented in the first Generations. There's no point including Emerald Hill if we already have Green Hill. But guess what? Oh boy, there's another twist! It wouldn't be a sequel if it wasn't bigger and better. So I'm going to be picking 5 new zones to include from the mainline Sonic games that have come out since the first generation over 10 years ago. Generations 2 is a celebration of Sonic's history, and a lot has happened since the first game came out. With all that out of the way, let's get started. Unfortunately for Sonic 1, there really is no zone that comes close to being as iconic as Green Hill, and it doesn't help that Green Hill is easily the best zone in the game. After thinking about it for a bit, I decided to go with Scrap Brain Zone. The original Sonic Generations has Crisis City, which is a sort of fire lava themed level already, so Marble Zone was out. Casino Night is a zone in 3DS Generations, so seeing as though Spring Yard is casino adjacent, I couldn't go with that. Generations already has a Water Ruin stage with Seaside Hill, so can't do Labyrinth Zone, though I don't think too many people would have wanted to see that one come back. And while Starlight Zone does have an interesting theme with the whole construction at night thing, it still does take place in a city, and Generations 1 has plenty of city levels. Speed Highway, City Escape, Crisis City, Rooftop Run, and then the 3DS version even has Radical Highway. I won't be factoring in level themes from 3DS Generations or Mania, but still, the fact that it's so common means I should pick something else. So, that leaves us with literally one zone left, unless you count the final zone as a separate thing, and that is Scrap Brain Zone. Scrap Brain is this menacing evil fortress, which I think would be a cool addition to Generations 2. Moving on to Sonic 2, my pick for this game is Mystic Cave Zone. Not only does it have great music, but Generations 1 didn't have any representation for spooky levels. Levels with dark and haunting atmospheres are fairly common in Sonic games, so Mystic Cave would be a nice addition. Of course, they should definitely do what Sonic Origins did and have an entrance to Hidden Palace Zone where the infamous pit in the original game was. That would be a great little secret that references the history of Sonic, given Hidden Palace Zone was a really famous scrapped level from Sonic 2. Next up is Sonic 3 and Knuckles. I noticed that while Sonic Generations 1 and 3DS Generations both had levels from Sonic 3 and Knuckles, both versions opted to pick a level from the Sonic and Knuckles portion of the game instead of the Sonic 3 half. So right away, I knew I had to pick something from Sonic 3. So, I'm gonna go with Ice Cap Zone. Ice levels are fairly common in Sonic games, but interestingly, neither Generations nor 3DS Generations had an ice level, so I think Ice Cap is a nice addition. It helps that Ice Cap is one of the most beloved zones from Sonic 3. There is one problem, and that's the whole Sonic 3 music fiasco. In the Sonic Origins collection, Carnival Night, Ice Cap, and Launch Base all had their music replaced, so if there is a Generations 2, it's likely that Ice Cap wouldn't get its original music. Still though, Ice Cap is a great zone that I would love to see in a Generations 2. Now we move on to the Dreamcast era. Or is it the Adventure era? Actually, neither of those make sense because Sonic Heroes is neither a Dreamcast game nor an adventure game. Anyway, my pick for Sonic Adventure is Twinkle Park. I think just about every level in Sonic Adventure is pretty memorable, but Twinkle Park is one that immediately sticks out to me. An amusement park with go-karts, bowling, and roller coasters would make for a really fun level in Generations 2. It would be really interesting to see a modern take on this zone. Moving on to Sonic Adventure 2, picking a stage from this game is a bit tricky. City Escape was already in Generations 1, and there's going to be a Space Colony Arc level in Shadow Generations, so I can't include Crazy Gadget or Final Rush. That leaves Metal Harbor, Green Forest, and Pyramid Cave for the available Sonic stages. We could dip into the Shadow stages from SA2, but I feel like Shadow Generations is going to have some of those, and I don't really want to risk this list being outdated in just a few weeks. So I'm going to go with Metal Harbor. We don't yet have a desert level or a jungle level for Generations 2, but out of those three, I think Metal Harbor is the most iconic stage. I put it right behind City Escape as the first level I think of when I think of SA2 Sonic levels. Metal Harbor is this military aircraft base on the water, which I think is a cool aesthetic. Next up is Sonic Heroes. Seaside Hill is already in Generations 1, Casino Park is another casino level, Rail Canyon is in Shadow Generations, Frog Forest isn't a bad pick, but I think I might have to go with Egg Fleet. Jumping across battleships high up in the sky in HD would be really cool. Hang Castle / Mystic Mansion would be my choice for a Sonic Heroes level, but unfortunately we already chose Mystic Cave for our spooky level. You know what? Screw it. I'm gonna do the first swap of this list. I'm gonna swap Mystic Cave for Wing Fortress so we can do Hang Castle for Sonic Heroes. As a spooky level, I think a haunted house is a lot more fun than a cave. Also, Wing Fortress and Egg Fleet have overlap since they're both fortresses in the sky, so I think we can get the fun that we would have had in Egg Fleet in Wing Fortress Zone anyway. Now we move on to the modern era. Actually, can we even call this the modern era anymore? This era began nearly 20 years ago with Sonic 06. We already have Seaside Hill as a tropical stage, so Wave Ocean is out. We have Ice Cap for an ice level, so no White Acropolis. Crisis City is already in Generations 1. Crisis City already has a fiery lava-ish vibe to it, so Flame Core seems a bit redundant. Radical Train is a bit unnecessary since Shadow Generations is going to have Rail Canyon to cover the rail yard gimmick. We have a grassy tropical stage in Green Hill, so Tropical Jungle isn't really needed. Kingdom Valley is also in Shadow Generation, so that's out of the question. That leaves Dusty Desert and Aquatic Base. Aquatic Base is an underwater research facility, which is kinda unique, but the whole secret mechanical base theme has a bit of overlap with stages like Scrap Brain, Chemical Plant, and there's various stages that emphasize water. Plus, we don't have a desert level yet, so I guess I'll go with Dusty Desert. Moving on to Sonic Unleashed. Eggman Land is a solid choice, but we already have Twinkle Park. To be fair, both levels do have very distinct vibes. Twinkle Park is a fun and sparkly amusement park, while Eggman Land is a menacing and evil amusement park, but even still, I think we should look elsewhere. My pick for this game is Dragon Road. It's an entire stage based on the Great Wall of China and Chinese architecture. Off of the top of my head, I can't think of any other level in the Sonic series like it, and I would love to see it in Generations 2. Now we arrive at Sonic Colors, the most recent mainline Sonic game before Generations 1 came out, and the last of the 9 stages based on games featured in Generations 1. Colors does have a running theme of the whole game taking place in an amusement park, which does create some problems since we already have Twinkle Park, but even so, I think there's a really good pick with Sweet Mountain. It's a level based around sweets. Donuts, jelly beans, ice cream, anything you could ever ask for. The best way to describe it is a sort of sugary factory in the mountains. There are some other good picks from Sonic Colors, but I think this would stand out the most. Okay, with that, we're done with the old games, so now let's move on to the 5 new stages from the Sonic games after Generations. First up is Sonic Lost World. Now, picking a stage from this game is kinda difficult because this game opted for more generic level themes if we're being honest. Windy Hill is basically just Green Hill, we already have Dusty Desert, so Desert Ruins is a no-go, Tropical Coast won't work since we have Seaside Hill, and even Green Hill has tropical vibes to it, Sky Road is basically just Green Hill in the sky, and we also have Sky Sanctuary too. Lava Mountain won't work because we've got Crisis City, so there really isn't much to work with. Frozen Factory is kinda interesting, it blends ice levels with factory levels, but we already have Ice Cap. Actually, wait, I have an idea. Let's go with Nightmare Zone. This was a DLC level for Sonic Lost World based on Nights into Dreams, and honestly, I think it's visually the most interesting zone we can use. The zone in Lost World was rather short, but there's a lot you can do with a Dream World concept for a stage. Nights was developed by Sonic Team, and Nights has had numerous cameos in the Sonic series. Nights has even been playable in a few games, so I think including this would be a good way to reference a part of Sonic's history. Next up is Sonic Mania. I know I said I wouldn't include any old zones from Sonic Mania, but that doesn't mean I can't include any new zones. I think it's only right that we include one of them in Sonic Generations 2. There are 4 new zones in Mania: Studiopolis, Press Garden, Mirage Saloon, and Titanic Monarch. All 4 of the zones are really cool stages with interesting themes, but I think we have to go with Mirage Saloon. Wait a second, you're probably saying. Didn't we already have a desert level with Dusty Desert from Sonic 06? Yeah, just pick Aquatic Base for that game instead, I don't care. We gotta have Mirage Saloon. I think Studiopolis is probably my first choice, but we have plenty of city levels already, even though I do think Studiopolis does enough to stand out on its own with the whole TV studio aesthetic. If the whole entire zone took place inside the studio like Act 2 of Studiopolis did, then I think I might have been able to make an exception. But anyway, Mirage Saloon is a great choice. Not only does it give us a desert level representation, but it also has this really slick Wild West bar vibe. There's a train in this stage and we do already have train representation, but it's only a small portion of the overall zone. Also, this stage features Bean, Fang, and Bark, so if Mirage Saloon is included in Generations 2, we get some representation for the lost characters of Sonic's awkward phase in the mid-90s. Moving right along, next we have Sonic Forces. Sonic Forces, like Sonic Mania, has several stages based on old Sonic zones, and unfortunately many of the new stages don't offer any unique level themes that we don't already have. But one cool zone this game does have is Mystic Jungle. We don't have a jungle stage yet, and unlike Tropical Jungle from Sonic 06, I think Mystic Jungle feels really unique. Specifically the Luminous Forest stage. It's a jungle at night with a whole bunch of neon lights. And in the background, the stage is on fire. There really isn't much to work with in Sonic Forces, so I think Mystic Jungle is the best choice. Following Sonic Forces, we have Sonic Frontiers. This game is hard to pick a zone from since it doesn't have proper zones. They're far more open-ended, and there's only 5 of them. Well, actually there's more like 3 of them since Rhea and Oranos are more of the same as Kronos, and the zones that we do have are honestly not particularly interesting. Kronos is just a grassland, Ares is the desert, and Chaos is the mountains. I guess if I had to pick, I'd go with Chaos Island. We do have Sweet Mountain, but that is obviously not a traditional mountain level. So yeah, I think this is the best I've got. This brings us to our last game, Sonic Superstars. Picking a stage from this game is difficult because we've run through so many level themes already, and while I do like how the stages in this game look, not too many of the level themes are particularly new or unique. One level that would stand out if we included it in Generations 2 is Cyber Station Zone. Cyberspace themed levels are not uncommon in the Sonic series, but we've yet to include one in Generations 2. So I think Cyber Station will be my pick from this game. But with that, we're officially done selecting the new stages. The new stages for my Generations 2 are Scrap Brain, Wing Fortress, Ice Cap, Twinkle Park, Metal Harbor, Hang Castle, Aquatic Base, Dragon Road, Sweet Mountain, Nightmare, Mirage Saloon, Mystic Jungle, Chaos Island, and Cyber Station. I don't see a Generation 2 happening anytime soon, or even a Sonic Mania 2 happening anytime soon, so I doubt we'll see any of these stages return in a new game for the foreseeable future, but it was fun to think about. Let me know in the comments what stages you'd pick for a Sonic Generations 2. If you want, you can impose the same restrictions that I placed on myself in this video, those being not choosing stages from the Generations games or Mania, and trying to use unique level themes, or you can pick from whatever stages you want. That's about all I have to say for today, so thanks for watching y'all, and have a great rest of your day.